What's up? One. Yeah, all yours.
You have the Zoom?
Well, we just don't see it on the TV
Oh.
yet, but he's in there.
I think I have to maybe turn the TV. No. Oh, income partially unplugged.
There you go.
We will call the meeting to order.
Awesome.
Are we recording?
We are.
Public comment? No public.
Just you. The public.
Okay. Approval of minutes from our meeting on April 21st.
We need to go over. So there's that correction. We need to ask Mark. Or,
Yeah, we can confirm. So Mark, I think you were talking about the planning board and another committee meeting that they had met on April 21st that you had come. And so we just wanted to confirm. Okay, so it was CPIC. So we just corrected the minutes to reflect that.
Yeah, I had made that. I also made the other changes that you had recommended, so they are now edited and corrected.
then I move that we accept it.
I'll second that. All in favor? Okay, staff update.
Okay.
That's you.
You guys, I think we may have talked about before that one of the, I think, attractive things about this battery storage farm is potentially some new tax revenue from the town that could be beneficial, in my mind, to help us make a community center, but you know, for something. And there was some work in the legislature, like last session, on how these facilities are taxed. And Gorham had been assuming that it was all going to be 100% taxed, probably as part of the real estate, and that they would get a nice tax bump. The battery company that went to Gorham was expecting it was going to be considered personal property and exempt from property tax for at least a large chunk of the facility. And there ended up being kind of a compromise made in the legislature that said that if you had all your interconnection agreements and stuff lined up before, I think it was January 1st of 24, that you would be able to qualify for the business equipment tax exemption and not have to pay tax. And the state would reimburse the town for half of the lost tax revenue. But if you weren't lined up, then, well, connected by that date, then it would not qualify for business equipment tax exemption, which should mean it's all taxed locally. They went back and changed the law at the end of the session. The assessor was just telling me. So now, if this facility is built, it can qualify for the business equipment tax exemption, which means best case scenario, we would get, say, half of what we were hoping to get for tax revenue. But then I did a little research to see, and I found an important Press Herald article from May about how the Gorham facilities tax, because supposedly there were rumors around town that the town wasn't getting any tax revenue from the facility. And what they've done at Gorham is they've broken the tax bill out in two pieces. So they consider the batteries to be personal property, and those are valued at 85 million. And those, the town gets no tax revenue on, but the state reimburses them for half of what they would have had in value. So it looks like it's around 600,000 or so a year they're getting from the state as reimbursement. Of course, the risk of relying too much on state reimbursement is when things get bad in Augusta, they like to cut the money they give to municipalities, cut revenue sharing or cut the reimbursement. What I was pleasantly surprised to see, and I pulled up the valuation of the facility from Gorham's records, and the land part, so not the batteries, but whatever's permanently affixed to the land, this company purchased the property for $850,000 back in looks like 2023, and by the time they made all their improvements, Gorham now has it assessed at 47 million. So which
The land,
plus the things permanently affixed to it. So my guess is it's probably like the switching stations and stuff like that are built in. There's obviously a road, that would be a big thing, but there's rock around. So there's a lot of site work had to be done, but probably a lot of it's the electrical equipment. But somehow they got to 47 million and the company mustn't be challenging it because if they did, they wouldn't be collecting it. So Gorham's still getting, looks like, according to the newspaper article, $700,000 from the real estate part of the 47 million. So right now Gorham's getting 700,000 from that, and then about another 600,000 from the state's betting. So it's over $1 million a year in tax revenue. So I'm still interested moving forward. It looks like this should still have a way to help us out in the town coffers. Not that it's all about the town coffers, but it certainly helps give motivation to make it happen.
It's kind of interesting that's the property is assessed with all of its stuff on it, because essentially these sites are meant to be temporary in nature,
right?
Because after 15 or 20 years, the batteries are toast.
Yep.
And you're deciding whether or not you're turning the site back into farmland or whatever else,
Yep.
or if you're putting the batteries on it. So, but I guess what you say is that the battery, you have like a jump in property value because you get a bunch of stuff on it, and then you have to reassess it afterwards once it's all gone.
And parts of the stuff must be permanently installed. So into the land, you know, like the batteries aren't, and they'll something, maybe even have to change those out in the 20 years. I don't know, depending on how they go. But this things that they attach to, or that actually went on the registry of deeds website and pulled up the site plan, which if you want, I dumped it in the folder.
And are the battery companies leasing the land from so in our case, Bissett owns the land?
In this case, it would be leasing it from Bisson. It looks like in Gorham, the company that owns the storage farm actually owns the land.
So if we went that route, would then Bisson have to foot the bill for the property tax if increase with the?
Usually they cover that in the lease agreement, so that the tenant has to pay the net increase of the property taxes based on their improvements and stuff.
At least through the life of the lease.
Right.
And after the lease is done. Interesting.
Let's see. Here we go. Bigger. So this is the plan for the Gorham site. That's, I think, a picture or something. That's not what I got. Yeah, that's not even that. That's something else. It's the American Clean Power Model. See, this is where the things connect to the grid through here. So I assume this must be worked into the 47 million part of it. The other thing, I think Justin said sometimes they have to do, it's interesting to talk to the assessor more in Gorham, but sometimes for commercial facilities, they do a different type of appraisal based on the income the place can generate, as opposed to,
Selling the land.
yeah, based on the, like for your house or something, it's based on the value of what's on the land.
You know, put a
But-
shed in, it's got $5,000 more value.
But like the 2 hydro dams, part of the assessment is based on the power that can be generated at it and stuff. And there's a guy who's with the group that wants, if not removed, at least better fish passage for the Androscoggin River. And he's like an expert in valuations, and it's kind of interesting to watch him at one of his presentations, because he thinks he knows the income stream of the power dam based on when they sell power, how much, whatever. So he can come up with, he's kind of the expert you'd want if you're getting your appraisal challenged, because he can come up with what he thinks the worth of the place based on the income stream, the revenue it generates. So maybe this 47 million is somehow, some of that's arrived at as part of the revenue it generates, as opposed to what the actual sitting there, since obviously a big part of what it is sitting there is the batteries. So, but I guess it's not unheard of to think there could be 47 worth of value for other things. If the batteries themselves are worth 85 million, then the 47 is a combination of what they're sitting on and how they're hooked up and all the wiring and the whatever other systems. that are-
Seems like a lot that there's some income factored in.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. So if they keep coming at you, this is gonna be like a major negotiation
Exactly.
where you don't actually know what the rules of the game are, because they're gonna sort of get generated as you go.
We probably have to hire it, and because Justin has said he's not, like, if we had to revalue, we get one of our dams challenged. Justin has said we'd have to hire a commercial appraiser that specializes in the income streams and all that stuff. So if this were to move ahead, we'd end up doing something similar. We'd have to hire an expert in battery storage system valuations to help us with that or something.
Okay, right.
Unless it's part of the negotiations, they're willing to agree to something. You know, like Walmart's famous for, they love to challenge valuations, and you end up maybe negotiating with them or something to resolve them. So when Market Basket came in, they got us nervous at first because we knew what we thought they were going to be valued at. And then they gave us like a legal notice letting us know how they would negotiate things. And it turned out we didn't need to. They said they were happy with things, but in some places, Market Basket, I guess, has challenged their valuations. And Target was sniffing around if they were going to challenge theirs a couple of years ago. They did like the first step, but then they never followed through with anything more. But one of the things Phil, our town attorney, has said is that if this came to pass, we might want to try to see if we could find a way to put it in a tax increment financing district, so that it would protect the valuation of it from our county formula and the school formula, which would keep more of the money local. And one of the things I'm exploring with our legislative delegation is to see if, because back to the community center, if we can get the TIF statute changed. Right now, you can't.
Because
fund
as
community
it
center
is, we can't use TIF money for.
Right.
community center.
But they've been expanding the definition kind of slowly, and you can now use it for like town offices, which you couldn't before. So I've been talking to our representatives about putting a bill in this session that maybe it'll fail, but it's worth a try, because if we could get that through and then this happens and we put it in a TIF, we could end up, say, doing our community center without maybe any tax hit, certainly not a significant one or something, because you could structure this and match it with the bond. And,
Yeah, and then there's community benefit agreements too. I mean, I think there's a lot of avenues, and
Yeah.
this is where Vermont Law School, I think, can be really helpful and guide us in what we can do.
Yep.
And like, I know Kurt was saying, like, we should get the developer to pay for all of our people that we need.
Yep.
So are there any other
Updates or
updates
anything?
from your end?
Just to follow up on the planning board CPIC thing. we think we've got a path forward that, based on the meeting that we had, CPIC is willing to do it. On the 28th, I pitch it to the planning board and see if they're willing to do it. And if they are, then we kind of have a resolution that's going to be going back to reviewing the code that we spent all this money drafting. And the planning board can kind of choose the pace. And if they want to start from the beginning again, because they've already done a bunch of the sections and thought they were happy with them. But if they want to go back to the beginning, we'll go back to the beginning. We'll bring the town engineer to the session, or we have a peer review engineer. So he does actually, he's not actually a town employee, but he gets developers paid for him to review site plans and give opinions on the stormwater or whatever. So planning board asked if he could come because they like his input and stuff. Makes sense. And then the other thing we talked about is starting with the biggest issues first. Like just before us now, CPIC was working on the revisions to the use code, which is probably one of the biggest sticking points. So I think if we can get through the big sticking points, the rest will kind of fall into place, as opposed to spending a lot of time on the little stuff and then all of a sudden not being able to resolve the use code things. So I think there's a way forward. We'll find out. And that's that. Can't think of, I guess one other thing we're kind of looking at energy wise is Jeff got the word that our furnace that we have over at the Forsyth Field recreation snack shack there is on its it's an oil furnace and it's on its last legs. It probably won't go into the next winter. So the
Some smoke coming out of there one after.
Yeah.
I was driving by, I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
That might have been the event.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, come on.
So they've given us a quote to put in a hyper heat pump to replace it with instead.
Yeah.
But then we asked some questions. We're like, why are we even heating that in the winter? And it's when the staff member's there during the day, they'll unlock the bathrooms, and a few people may use them. But usually when a staff member's, it's not the weekends when people are sledding. It's Friday morning or something. So we're gonna go to the select board on the 20th to kind of give them the options, but our recommendation is probably gonna be that we just drain the pipes in the winter and not heat it, which I just don't think better than a heat pump, right, is not having to pay for anything, anything whatsoever. But it just seems like it might be a better use of town money, not to heat a building that just has a couple people use the bathroom during the day when someone's there on weekdays in the winter.
The foundation is.
It's on a slab, so. The other thing we probably would do is do something to the water so that, I guess what the shut off is deeper in the ground or something.
Yeah, we'll have to put like a hydrant valve in there so we can have water in the winter.
Yeah.
Without the heat.
Right.
So.
We don't need.
What we'd use the water for is just skating rinks. So that's the only thing we need water for, but it is nice to have that in the winter so we can try it. This winter, we actually had ice for the first time in a while. For a while, we were trying to make ice and it would get so warm that we wouldn't be able to keep the ice, but that's the only energy related update, I think, on town facilities and things.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, old business, invasive species and natural areas plan collab.
I have been in touch with the chair, excuse me. We're supposed to get together, we haven't yet. But in the results that the invasive species.
And do we have a time for that?
I had proposed 6, I believe, and I haven't heard back. I have not heard back from Andrew. I think he's pretty busy right now, but I will double check with him. I believe we agreed on 6.
And then what are the next steps for that session in terms of booking the space and?
Well, we're having it here.
Oh, yeah.
And I already talked to whoever, and they haven't said it wasn't available. They were checking with you. I think it was, to Rose, you checked with you.
Yeah, so we can do that.
Yeah, so that's all set. my next to-do is to write the blurb for the prior. And I'll have that to you before the board has requested, back before the end of the month, end of June. I don't think there's anything else there. I'm looking, I proposed to Shad that we get together and talk about the plan, because I'd like to know more about it. And she thought that was a great idea, but I haven't heard from her since. I know that she's busy. They did an invasive, or not an invasive plants, but a natural plants program at the library just this week, so she's got her hands full. We'll work it out.
Awesome. All right. Maine Community Power Cooperative.
This is where we find out that Nick did absolutely nothing this month. The whole month got away from me.
You sprang.
Yeah,
You are
I,
working on it.
yeah. So I'm very sorry about that. What do we do? Look for another month to do it in, or move it out?
Yeah, do we want to move it to September?
I think that would make sense.
We probably should.
To them.
I promise this month. All I had to do is call her up, but it just kept following up. So anyway,
All right.
there you have it.
Okay, ideas and next steps on how to spread the word. Carl, I think you had put together a proposed.
Yeah, rough kind of layout of the,
Oh,
you here for the housing authority?
I'm sorry.
Oh, you guys are in the big room downstairs.
Wrong room.
They
We were hoping somebody from the public
We're not-
was
we're
gonna
not,
come join us.
First on the
Oh.
rooms and the floors.
I'll show you where it is.
But.
You've been promoted to the big room.
And so Carl, you put it in the
Have a good meeting.
I think it's in the drive, yeah,
outreach.
yeah, if you have time to
Quick facts.
peek at it, I can sort of
Here, let's share.
Okay.
give some,
What is that under in the drive?
I think I just put it in the main, it's like a PowerPoint or a slides, whatever Google calls it.
I think I get a promote you too. There, you should have an invitation to be promoted.
Oh, there it is.
I think I have an email, some sort of thought.
Okay. Share. There it goes.
So this is super rough, of course. But this idea sort of comes from like an acknowledgement that a lot of folks will probably spend less than a minute or have less than a minute to sort of ingest and think about some information. But to also perhaps provide some additional information if there are people who are sort of interested in it. This is just meant to be literally a square, one sheet presentation, I guess, that just says, you know, here are here are a few things for you to read about and learn. Go back to 1, 2, and 3, which says, okay, Energy Committee is doing this thing. Here's some information about it. Okay. And then here's some more information about future presentations, links to past webinars. And I'm not sure what happened to that one picture there, but that was supposed to be another picture or something. But
I thought it was a hazard.
yeah, no, it's
Like attention.
it's supposed to be, I don't know. But so what the idea would be is, before a committee presentation on something, we may send 2, 3 of these out, one each week, or one, I guess, at the crier, and then others potentially in like a social media form. But the hope would be it would be less than 5 minutes. So you would use this as your template, and you would perhaps theme the facts together. So, we're working on grid scale battery storage. Perhaps there's a theme on benefits of grid scale. So did you know grid scale battery storage can help level load the grid? Did you know that it will reduce peak electrical consumption for the town and reduce cost of electricity? Did you know that it will have a tax revenue associated with it, which the town can use for its own benefit? If you want to learn more, here's the Energy Committee website. And here is where the next presentation on this is going to be if we do that. Furthermore, you could do 1 or 2 or 3 after you've done one, which helps bring some of the knowledge that we learned at the presentation and spread it out in this form, as well as linking to the webinar, or not the webinar, but the recording of the session. So the hope is that you could use this in poster form, newspaper. We could, I had an idea potentially with the website. I don't know what our capabilities are, but if you had this or something like this, you could have them kind of like scroll, like popping up and then dimming down, going to the next one. Or
Like a carousel.
like a carousel, that's the word. That's the one. So people could sit there and stare at it if they wanted to. You could put an email list. I specifically made it a square because that's the most compatible with Instagram and Facebook stuff if we went that route. So to Jeff's suggestion, you have a QR code that you can plug in with your phone, and it brings you hopefully right to the website page of the YouTube recording or something. You just pop it in like that. So it's meant to be simple, very easy to maintain, because the more work it takes, the less likely it's going to happen. So that's the template approach would be the way to do it. And potentially, it doesn't have to be that color or whatever. Oh, it was supposed to be a light bulb. That's what it was. It was like a clip art light bulb with the Energy Committee. So that was the idea. I'm, of course, happy for input or criticism or other ideas, but it's the bottom line is the hope to let people learn something at the very least. They go, huh, that's cool, and then forget it or whatnot. Then I'll have to do anything, but it's right there. Info's right there. They can consume it and go to their something else. So, it'd be very easy for us to do.
we do have a carousel on the front page that we kind of rotate boxes depending on what's going on. So something like this, we could take that box and put it in the leading up to the event or something. Is that what you're thinking?
Either, I mean, yeah, I mean, it'd be great to put it on the main page, definitely. Or on the energy committee one, if you have 10 or 5 or 10 or 15 of these, they just continually they're carouseling. Somebody could learn something from one of these as made next year, whatever.
That might be one of our interns questions. I
Yeah.
don't know if we can do other carousels other than the one on the main page. We may be able to.
This is actually right in line with one of the projects that they think they're the most excited with.
I'm not an HTML expert by any means.
And this is kind of like a canned website. They get certain formats. They do a little customization every 3 years or something. But there may be a carousel tool that we just don't know how to use, so that we could add it to other pages other than the main one.
Okay.
Figure that out.
It seems more like a social media thing though. I mean, it would be good to have it on the website, but it looks like it would work really well with social media to blast out.
Yeah, I think it was inspired by the quick consumption model of social media.
Right.
Look at it, you're interested for 10 seconds and maybe you learn something, maybe you don't, you move forward. But it's at least puts the information there. If somebody's really interested, then they have the tools to go dig deeper if they want.
Do we know how many people go to the town website? How much traffic there is?
I think we may be able to find that out. Pam has a way to get in and check some statistics, so.
Yeah.
Short answer is no, but I think we can find out. So.
Yeah, I like the concept. I think I'm finding the color jarring
Oh, yeah.
personally.
That was somewhat intentional. Yeah.
But I think it can be kind of like designed a little bit to get to a template that we all
Yeah.
like, yes, this is our template. We're happy that this is how every single one's gonna kind of look and people will be familiarized. I would just suggest that we come up with a schedule. So maybe like each month, which are the things that are gonna be going out, who's drafting it, who's posting it, where are we posting it? And we just need to make it
Yeah.
organized
Yeah.
and repeatable each month. And have sort of a plan of, okay, leading up to invasive species, we're gonna do this month on Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And Jackie's drafting it, and just make
Jackie's not
sure.
posting it, Jackie doesn't use social media.
Right, and Carl's put, like, whoever it is, like, we just need to create a plan of who's doing what, so
Right.
that we can keep the momentum going.
And I would think that one could use it not just for actual events, but just interest, fun facts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of information out there that we could share, and the more often it changes, the more likely people are to pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many energy related topics. You
Yeah,
can just
exactly.
slam into this
Right.
whenever you wanted to.
And it really wouldn't be hard. I mean, I can already picture 3 things about invasive plants that could be put there. And there's so many things going on that you talk about water and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so do we want to identify some next steps on this idea? And who's gonna do that?
Can we have a show of hands of who uses social media?
Unfortunately,
You do? Okay, well, I mean, that's
I have-
promising.
I put a timer on, there's an app on your phone where you can put timers for other apps. And I've
It
done
shuts
that
you off?
because you have to.
Wow.
It sucks you in. Yes, it's
Stephanie,
sad, it's sad.
I mean,
but-
I also have timer limits on my social media.
Wow, you guys are advanced, okay.
Yeah, I have 15 minutes, but
Yes.
between Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. Yeah.
but
Okay.
I don't know, like, I don't think we would be posting them to accounts that we own.
Town account sorts.
Yeah, or whatever.
So it's our biggest account is the rec department keeps one, and would certainly be willing to share stuff on. We have a general town one too, they usually pamphlet stuff on that too. Could go on that as well.
So
How would
we
you
would
think?
be able to give something to Pam and away it goes.
Does that work, or do you think we should spin off our own social media
I don't,
account? I don't really want to manage one myself.
Wow, this is 4 for 4. Nobody wants to do that. I mean,
Well,
it's interesting. You don't really run into
managing
very
an
many
account
groups.
and setting up posts, because I think this could just be, I think you'd save it as like a JPEG or picture file. That would be what posted. We could get Pam to approve of the template, I suppose. Do we need to run this by boards, other boards for communication, improved
Not for this
communication?
type of thing.
No, okay.
Okay, well, I can volunteer to, maybe work up like the battery one that would point people to the battery webinar recording. So I can volunteer to do that. Does someone want to volunteer to come up with a schedule? Like a format for the schedule that we would be following?
But you're written, what you need.
Like if we're gonna do posts every month, what's being posted? Who's drafting it? Who's, you know, disseminating it? Are we making it a poster? Is someone going and putting the poster up around
Okay,
town?
so
Like,
Sort of a template or form for doing that, because some of it would be, you know, you wouldn't be doing it very far in advance, I would think.
well, if we wanna use it to advertise the the invasive species
Right.
event, then we would wanna make
Yeah.
sure we're doing it in the next couple months.
Right, oh, yes, exactly, and I could, if I learn how to do that, I could certainly I could provide all the information. No problem there.
Do we need to finalize how this looks?
Yeah, I think that would be
First.
our next thing, so that we could go ahead and start using it.
Yeah, so I think, so I'm volunteering to put a version together for the
Oh,
battery storage
I see,
event
including that.
that would
Okay,
kind of like take this and iterate on it.
make it better.
And then I'm asking if someone else wants to volunteer to set up the plan for, you know, how do we track what we're doing each month and who's doing what each month? Does someone want to volunteer to set that up?
I can,
As soon as we have that form or have that worked out, I'll do the invasive plant one.
Okay, perfect.
So you could just go on, and if you don't want to say grid battery storage, you can say community solar or something like, you can just change the words.
that would be the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have a base file. You could say, fill this in, fill that in. Fill these 3 things in.
But you wouldn't change the shape of the boxes or the size of the boxes, just leave that.
Yeah,
all alone.
how many characters would fit in? I mean, how big is this thing?
Depends on what size font you choose.
Yeah, I think less is more should be the theme,
Yeah,
but, we can adjust it as needed, you know, as we kind of do more and figure it out. But I think, you know, each fact, 1 or 2 sentences probably.
that much would fit in there.
I think so,
Okay, so you-
yeah. We'll have to play with it, I guess.
Yeah.
If that's,
Okay, well, I think we have a couple of concrete next steps to try this out. Updates to the webinars page on the town website. Carl, did you have a chance to draft anything for that?
no, also on the bad boy list.
Okay,
this
so
month.
Carl will work on that. Do you still think you can work on that?
Yes, I think, it's just focused on the,
It's updating the webinars.
webinar piece of it.
And then once we have the content, then we can hand it off to them tomorrow. We can update it.
I was gonna say, back to this template thing, I'll work on something, like a community solar one, just kind of Kindle. See what that might look like.
All right, I have an update on Vermont Law School's involvement. Just a couple of emails back and forth with Kurt. He said, if you think it would be helpful, we can officially engage with the town. Our work would be pro bono, but if Mission really started to move forward on permitting, we would probably ask them to pay for some of our travel and miscellaneous expenses. Nothing major, just the typical third-party consultant arrangement that a lot of towns require when dealing with significant development. We are planning on focusing on utility scale battery development as a huge priority at the clinic over the next several years. If this seems like something you would like to pursue, we can send over a draft engagement letter. As indicated, there would be no cost to the town. I said, definitely send over an engagement letter and I'll send it to our town manager to get that process in motion. And he wrote back about a week ago saying, we will do so, might be a few weeks until students get back to do the drafting, but we're definitely interested. Let me know if anything pops up in the meantime that they can help with. So as soon as I get that engagement letter,
That's great.
I'll forward it over for you guys to start reviewing.
We have the select board meeting, they're not gonna meet on the 4th because they're doing a bunch of interviews that night, but then there's one on the 18th of June. So if we get the letter by June 10th or something, then we could get it on the agenda for that, because this is something I want them to approve too. So we could get it on for that.
I can let Kurt know.
And if, and if that doesn't work for him, we'll do it first July meeting or something.
All right, and then I think I sent an email to folks about the residential scale battery stuff that I learned from revision.
Yeah.
Did that make sense to you guys?
Jeff made more sense than me. But.
Yeah, it did. I ended up chasing some of it down because some of it made sense and some of it, I think it was just, I got a little bit confused by the wording of it. So I chased down an old contact from the fire marshal's office by the name of Mark Bayou. And he's the one who kind of runs the code side of things up there. And I talked to him about the adoption process in the state right now. And so basically what the state's looking to do is adopt the 2024 version of NFPA 1, which probably doesn't make much sense. NFPA 1 is the overall code for the fire service. There's 1 and 101 are the two big ones. They're going to update the version from 2018, what it currently is, to 2024 for NFPA 1. And that will include some of the stuff in NFPA 1 directly, but then what they're going to do is, he said his office has been reviewing some stuff, and the version of 855, there's a new edition, 2026. He said the 2026 version has cleaned up a lot of stuff that they were concerned with. So what they're going to do is adopt 2024 1 and then 2026 855 independently from 1, which will give them a lot more flexibility moving forward. The way the town of Topsham works is the code adoptions are parallel with what the state adopts. So whatever, as the state goes, so goes Topsham, right? And so the conversation I had with him today was, it was actually a very good conversation. It was, if this town decides that it wants to go forward and adopt things locally, we should look at adopting 855 2026. And NFPA 1, it's really kind of irrelevant, I think, at this point, because I don't think you're going to find anything in 1 especially if you adopt the 26th version of 855, that it wouldn't just already take care of itself. So moving forward, I say that because the state, he said, yes, we intend to do that sometime soon. That's what he said, sometime soon. I go, what's sometime soon? Well, it's, we're currently on the 2018 version, so we're working on it. Which 2018 really isn't all that bad because they're cycles, but, so he's thinking best guess of a few months, let's just say 3 to 6 months. If they push that forward and they're able to do that, great, we probably don't have to do anything, and we can just stop with the adoption process because it will all be done for us, basically. If this group beats them to the finish line and decides to adopt 855 2026, it's great. That'll get us to the point until they adopt it, and then it's kind of a moot point. Does that make sense?
Pretty much.
A little bit.
A little bit.
I mean, it makes
Well,
sense. What's the?
let me clean it up. There's path A and path B. They
Yeah.
both take you to the exact same place. So what we're kind of thinking is that we'll both take our individual paths, and whoever beats the other one to the finish line, the town of Topsham is gonna be in the same exact place.
And this, you're just referring to for the large scale batteries.
Well, I'm referring to whatever is governed by 1 and 855. So if there's residential components to that would be included.
Because I think like what the revision guy was saying is that residential battery systems already have statewide rules as part of the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code.
Yeah, you bet.
And so our code enforcement should be using those.
They are in place. What you're gonna run into with the state of Maine, though, is it is, as much as they try not to, the MUBEC, the Uniform Building Code, has to try to run parallel with the fire codes, but they're two separate paths. And so, yes, you're right. I mean, Tom should be familiar with all this. That's the direction we're headed. We're in a good spot. We need to make sure these books line up with all that because they're independent. That makes sense. Same people, most of the time, same people. Same people, different book. Literally the same desk, 2 books. And most of the time, they're pretty parallel. But this is what the fire marshal is gonna adopt. So basically, if Tom went out and inspected something up the MUBEC, those are the rules he would look at. If the fire chief decided he wanted to go out and look at something, he would grab a different book, look at different things. They have to line up.
I think that another piece of this too is that if we split out residential and commercial, well, in this case, this email talks about residential and commercial covered separately. I don't know our ordinance right now.
Our ordinance right now
It
does not
says-
cover residential. And so I think that's the question that I was trying to answer is there already a process for residential batteries to be permitted and installed safely and correctly and for Topsham to know that they're there? Or do we need to somehow incorporate something into our ordinance that covers residential batteries? And my interpretation from Hans's email was that MUBEC covers them. And it's just that our code enforcement officer needs to know how to handle these, batteries.
MUBEC covers them. Chapter 15 says 1, 2 family dwellings and townhouse units. So I mean, it's included residential in 855. Whether the books go into permitting requirements, they probably don't. That's probably an ordinance thing.
But yeah, we need to make the definitions in the ordinance match the definitions in the codes.
Yeah,
so that when somebody is stalling them, or the town officials or whoever's doing the review can say, this is a residential and it needs to meet these requirements of MUBEC and NFPA 1, chapters, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, it's gotta go to chapter 52, 2024 NFPA. Updated chapter 52, refer to NFPA 55.
which 2024 NFPA isn't a thing yet.
Right.
I mean, it's a thing, it's just not adopted yet, so there's no legal right to access it. But you're right, I mean, you should either refer to the code definitions or copy and paste, so to speak. because-
Right. Yeah. Because like you were saying, Stephanie, we just say grid level and everything else. Right? I don't know if everything else is just residential or if it's residential and something else.
Yeah, I
That
don't know.
makes sense.
Maybe for now, we continue to sort of table the residential thing. Cause it seems like it's a little lower priority. I've heard us say that we think that at least knowing that residential batteries have been installed would be helpful. But we don't really have an idea or a plan yet of how we wanna implement that.
Okay, so
Whether it goes into the ordinance somehow or
Because people are already doing it. I test a wall or something like that.
who knows? We don't know. I don't have
a
one.
permit or anything for it at this time
I don't think,
with the town.
no.
well, it's probably just some type of an electrical permit.
Yeah, it's just installed by an electrician,
Right.
but I think the issue that we feel is pertinent is that the fire department should have a roster of
We might be able to
installations or something like that.
Might be able to handle that in-house though, I mean, if all these are getting electrical permits, we could flag them over here and get them over there. I mean, we could probably make that a little bit easier, streamline it, handle it in-house.
Town doesn't want to be liable for messing that up or not doing it or
Well, no, I just don't, I mean, if we wanna keep it, we wanna keep it simple, at least to start with. If all these are getting electrical permits, why not leave it to the professional to see if he thinks that's something that should go next door for their system, have those two talk and work something out. It's
Right next door.
to the fire station, sorry, to the fire chief.
So codes.
Yeah, have
fire-
the codes
fire
work
talk with
in-house
each other.
with the fire chief and talk to each other, because outside of us trying to guess what maybe is important to them, maybe the electrical permit's what triggers it, and then they review it and decide what they want and what they don't want. And then that kind of keeps you out of the developing new permits for at least a little while. Till somebody wants more.
People will be impressed with the efficiency of our government, that you file one permit,
Yeah,
do two things.
yeah. I mean, otherwise, I think you have to create a whole residential permit for batteries and you're getting in all these check boxes
Yeah.
on what does it control, and how many units, and do you have attached dwellings, and I mean, it could get pretty complicated, I think. And if everything's already in place to kind of do it in-house, at least to start with, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Field trip to Gorham.
I haven't lined anything up, because we started, Jeff and I got talking about it, probably wouldn't be really too much to see. Here's probably look like a self-storage unit, here's a bunch of boxes laid out. It seems like it's more their information that we want, more so than actual visiting the site, but feel free to. What would we hope to get out of the field visit, I guess is the question.
Yeah, I mean, if we go see theirs, it's X number of units, ours might be X times 10 units, who knows, So I think we need to, I don't know if the visual would do me, I mean, I've seen a picture of things.
Yeah, I mean, like I said last time, like, I'm happy to just go drive over and like drive past it and just get a sense, like, I'm just personally curious and
Yeah,
I kind of want to understand the concepts that we're talking about in terms of like setbacks and like just a better understanding what these things actually look like on the ground
Yeah.
would be helpful, but I can try, if I can see it from the road, like I can just go drive past on my own. We don't need to do all the coordination and taking up time.
Might even be able to do it on Google Earth.
Anyway, so I'm personally, I would find it helpful to see. But I don't want to like take up people's time if I can just achieve that on my own by driving past it.
See what the address is.
yeah, like, I don't really have time for that right now, even though it would be interesting if it was like in Lisbon Falls. I probably would have been there 6 times already, but, you know.
I would be interested in going, but there's a good chance I would have the same situation as Nick, where time to do that would be difficult. Just, but, I mean, so that's all to say, if it happens, it'd be great to say, hey, we're going to site this day, you can make it, right? Otherwise, make a big coordination thing out of it eventually.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But I also agree that like getting to understand what a 10-foot spacing between these things kind of feels like would be interesting, or being able to hear the noise
Yeah,
and how that relates to what the ordinance is, and but it would also be a good opportunity to pick the brains of the folks who are there, presumably somebody who has knowledge of how the site was developed from the town's perspective would be.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, I'm happy to try and figure out if I can go look at it reasonably by myself through the fence, and if not, then I can just reach out to you, Mark, and say,
Okay.
I want to do this, or hey, I don't feel like wasting people's time, so I can live without it. Okay, and then the last old business is just continuing to work on our ordinance.
One thing I forgot to mention, if anybody knows anybody from the town of Yarmouth, I can reach out to the fire chief. They're the only community that the state was aware of that actually adopted 855 when it was first developed. So they've actually had it on their rules for a while and been using the book for a while. So I know the fire chief in Yarmouth. I can have a conversation with him and see how it's worked out and see if I can get some helpful information on that. So I'll plan to do that.
Does it cover more than battery storage, or is it all just battery storage?
It's installation of stationary energy storage systems. So, I mean, it's my quick read of it was all types of batteries. There's probably some, my guess is there's probably some solar interactions to the batteries and how everything gets stored.
I wasn't aware that they had a battery storage system. Maybe they just,
I'm not sure.
maybe
Oh,
they
I'm not
just
sure
said-
they do.
yeah,
Yeah, it was, the state said it was surprising to them, but, I can find that out when I talk to them, why they even did it. There has to be a reason.
Okay, so last time we had started going through, I'm confused because this text used to be green. There it is. I don't know why it wasn't green. I guess because I have the comment selected. So the green is the text that we added as a group last time. And then this morning, I just went through and added a bunch of notes related to what I was seeing in the Massachusetts bylaw, to sort of do a compare and contrast. And so we should be able to, I think, talk through what Massachusetts has done and decide if we want to incorporate anything. One thing that we had noted was anything related to containment in the event of a leak. And so where did the leak go? All right, it must be later on, sorry. Okay, so I guess the first comment is about the fees. And I don't know if you're referring to environmental fees. But the language that I put in here is related to actual fees associated with the building permit itself. And I don't know if the town already has set fees for building permits, or if we want to have special fees for these types of special use permits.
I think it's probably, in general, and we do have fees based on the value of the building, but in general, I think it's more important. Like, we have make people pay for our consultants. I think it's more important to get them to pay for our peer review consultants, or either our peer review electrical engineer or our peer review whatever, than it is necessary to just collect a fee for revenue purposes or something. I noticed it was either in the James City County or the Farquhar County, Virginia one. They actually, you have to have a hazardous, the developer has to come up with a hazard mitigation plan. So it could probably be covered if something happened and there was a risk of contaminating something. That has to be approved by the fire chief. There's this thing in there. They also have a commissioning agent report that has to be to the satisfaction of the fire chief. So I think it's probably more important to have some of these reports done at the expense of the developer to the satisfaction of our officials than it is to collect a big impact fee or something.
Yeah, well, so I think that, so in the Massachusetts bylaw, there is a section around environmental impact and causing fees in lieu of like conserving an equal amount of land somewhere else. I don't know if our solar ordinance has anything related to conserving the same amount of land somewhere else if they're developing somewhere.
I think there is an impact fee though.
There's impact fees, but there's not a, you know, I guess quid pro quo is not really quite what it is, but you know, there's not like an equal, like I know in Massachusetts, they do that a lot. You know, we're gonna cut down 750 acres, so we're gonna conserve 700. You know, based on the location in the town and the type of habitat, there's different levels of mitigation fees.
So
Yeah,
do we
so-
want to consider the same
I don't
kind of
think
thing
so.
here?
I mean, it just makes it less likely the plan will get built, right? The more fees we put on, the less likely I want tax revenue out of it, but I'd just assume just get tax revenue as opposed to special fees.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, the solar one was because there was, you know, so much building in, you know, questionable areas, you know, that, you know, we were trying to advantage, you know, lower level, you know, not like contiguous forests and, you know, high value agricultural land, but, you know, advantage, you know, like the one out at the disc golf place, you know, that place was, you know, ransacked a long time ago. So, you know, it wasn't like a high value thing.
Okay.
A lot of your fees are based on, you know, like permit fees are based on inspections and site visits and stuff.
Yeah, it's meant to cover the cost to the town of the personnel time, right? Of
Right.
like reviewing the permit. and
Yeah,
visiting
so
sites.
if you're making the company provide you third-party documentation that things are okay, or hazmat mitigation plans, things like that, it's almost the same thing. It's just that different way.
less risk for the town by requiring them to pay for our consultant than trying to come up with a fee that we think is gonna cover the costs or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so they would
So-
be subject to the normal fee structure that we have for any
Right.
development.
Yeah.
But you're saying that we should consider putting in a provision around, would that go in the ordinance or would that be
Yeah,
part of the
I
agreement?
think we want it in the ordinance, because if we don't have the ordinance, we don't have, we don't, sorry, I stammer. We don't have the right to insist people pay it if we don't have an ordinance that says that, so we need to have it in there.
We are gonna wanna check the codes and make sure that it's not a requirement in one of the codes too. I mean, I've seen it before, third-party engineers are required for some stuff, so we just double check and make sure we're not duplicating it.
So which
Yeah.
section would this type of fee go in?
Probably back in the application part.
The submission requirements?
Yeah. We have pieces of this already in our codes that maybe, in addition to Jeff saying it may be a statute, it may be something already in our zoning code that requires parts of it.
So I mean, we probably want you guys to generate some sort of list of, consultants or engineering or whatever, kind of
Yeah.
a comprehensive list of things that they would
Like,
be
the
responsible
ones I've
for.
seen that look good for these plans we want developed is the, sort of the fire response plan and the hazard mitigation plan,
Mhm.
the commissioning plan, so that we get it all tested to make sure it was built right and ready to work, the decommissioning plan, and then
Mhm.
some type of a bond to make sure this money's sitting there to do it when the time comes. For sure, of some sort.
But as far as all the things we've been talking about, like the, site, site engineering or, what do you call it? It's what Tom Associated
The
does.
peer review engineer,
Peer review, yeah.
and some of that's already in our code, like for the stormwater permits and things, they have to pay for our peer review engineer to review it and stuff.
Oh, so there might not be anything particular to this battery thing besides these plans
Right,
that you're talking about.
The decommissioning plan's required in this one.
Yeah,
So that's one of those things. I think we just have to go plan by plan and then make sure that it actually says what the town wants.
which honestly maybe where Kirk comes in. It's because he knows, oh, this is covered in this and that, so.
So you said that the James City County one had an example of this language?
Yep. The black bar having one.
Yeah, commission plans are requirement too.
Okay, I'm just leaving a note for me to look at the language and try and pull something in. So that would probably be a new section 410 maybe. Okay, I can try and add that language for everyone's review. And we don't need to consider reducing fees for certain locations that we want them to potentially go to.
I think they're only gonna be attracted to areas near power lines no matter what anyway.
Okay.
So section 400 is the list of required things that
all the
will
different
have to be
plans.
submitted. The town will not have that reviewed by the planning board, it will have it reviewed by a third-party consultant to approve the plans and submissions, along with any other necessary permits, such as Department of Environmental Protection, the Army Corps of Engineers, and other regulatory, because there's a bunch of other permits that they have to get before they even talk to town,
Mhm.
right?
I kind of envision this, you know, by the time they get to the town, I kind of envision everything going to the plan. And when the developers show up to do this, they're probably gonna have one of those big 3-room binders and big rolls of plans.
Yeah.
It's gonna include their hazardous mitigation analysis, their, their commissioning and decommissioning plans, and it should all be right there if we adopt the books that we have available to us. I think,
Are we anticipating the planning board's just gonna be like, have everything approved?
no, but I think the way unless I'm wrong, I think the way that the planning board does it is they accept the completeness of the application, right? And they review it for completeness, so
Yeah,
that would be all the stuff, that would be the stamp, yes, all here.
yeah,
And then they depend on staff and the staff review and feedback and third-party engineers and before, but it does go to them, right?
In fact, that Gorham plan had the conditions right on the recorded plan. Then one of them said that facilities shall comply with an FPA section 8 or code at 855. There was like 10 or 12 conditions written right on the plan. So we may not need to write a lot of text saying, if we say you have to comply with 855, we probably don't have to write a lot of text saying you have to have a decommissioning plan. Where we probably would want to put text is, because I doubt 855 says they have to pay for a peer review engineer to review your decommissioning plan. So that would be in our local ordinance, that'd be something we'd add.
Exactly.
would the planning board benefit from having a front list of things that they know they have to look for in
Oh,
the
yeah.
application?
Yeah.
So they don't have to know 855 to be like, okay, yes, okay, yes.
Although-
Chapter 7. Yes.
We want to avoid conflicts as much as possible.
Right.
So if we say you got to follow 855, but then we only say you have to turn in certain things from 855,
Right.
Then they're like, well, which is it? And you can create ambiguity. So, which is, I think this is where Kurt will be great, is because Kurt knows the things that are already there and what we can do just by referencing, say, 855, as opposed to areas where we need to expand beyond 855.
And I would assume Sky has some sort of a list for most projects, so maybe not create a whole.
You could word it like, this may include, but it's not all encompassing, decommissioning plan, hazardous materials, commissioning plan. There's your.
I bet if they're building these sites, though, they know exactly what's required by 855.
Yeah, they probably
Oh,
already
yeah.
have it on the shelf, ready to go.
Yeah, and the developers know what's gotta be done to get the project, it's the.
And I think it's probably more attractive to them too, to the extent, the cleaner it is by just saying, we require 855. In addition, we require you to pay for peer review engineers for your decommissioning plan, your blah, blah, blah. As opposed to us trying to take things out of 855, but still say it by 855, and then, oh, it's the local regulation part of this.
And they're town approved third-party engineers.
Right.
We would assign the engineer for review,
We-
not the
The
developer.
way we've been doing it is we choose the engineer and they have to pay the.
Okay, okay,
So this guy, Tom Saucier, does most of our stuff.
okay. So it's not like the developer's engineer approves their drawings.
The developer's engineer, like, say for the traffic plan, for something going in at Topsham Wall or something, the developer hires a traffic engineer that comes up with a plan, then we pay for a guy, usually it's a guy named Tom Erico, who's another traffic engineer. He looks at their plan, see if he thinks it's reasonable, or, and Tom Saucier does that for stormwater stuff, and he looks at their stormwater plan, and they pay for him, but he looks at it, representing the town's interest to make sure that they've used good assumptions or good facts or whatever it might be.
So if I'm developing a battery storage site, I go to somebody, I purchase or lease a site. And then I go to the town and I say, I want to develop a site here. So here's our ordinance. And they go off and put that together based on the state and the town's requirements. And then they go back to the town official, say, here's my submission. The town says, okay, let me give it to my engineer. Engineer provides comments or approves it. And then they go to the planning board, and the planning board says, this meets everything, you have the town's engineer stamp of approval. Go and make a, is that kind of the high level?
Yeah, you missed there's a couple meetings you missed, it goes to, no, that's fine, but it goes to, I think it's important to mention it, before and in between the planning board meetings, it goes to staff review committees, so that all the department heads from all the departments get a stab at the plan to make sure that police, you know, if the police want security cameras, if they have concern, fire department wants access, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So that goes in between the plan.
And the peer review engineers that they pay for usually sit on that meeting so they can hear the staff comments, or because they may jog something in their mind, or.
Does the developer pay for the town officials' time to, no,
Just the,
just the engineers, a third party that's covered, okay. Thanks, that's helpful to for me to understand.
I mean, if anything, that's probably what the application fee covers, is some of the town staff itself.
Yeah.
I see.
So we already added in language here, you can see in the green that says, you know, permitted by the code enforcement officer. The Massachusetts bylaw had more explicitly stated, like, no BESS installation shall be constructed, installed, or modified without first obtaining building and or electrical permits. I didn't know if we wanted to try and make this even clearer, and I feel like this even would apply to maybe residential
That looks like you would.
scale. Anyway, just food for thought. I don't know if we feel like we need to add.
I feel like that you should be able to assume that. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No BESS installations of a construction equipment are modified. Is that, does,
And like, do we wanna add that grid scale are also permitted? Are they like permit? I don't know, are they permitted by the planning board? Or,
Soon the site plan is the planning board.
right? Is it a totally different?
I think why don't we defer until we hear from Kirk?
Okay,
Because he may tell us what he thinks the other authorities should be, or permits other than. When I was looking through Gorham stuff, I don't see a lot other than just the site plan stuff. Gorham, they didn't have like a separate battery storage ordinance or anything.
so a developer can't even do site work right now? Like, they couldn't make like a ground area where they think the battery storage systems could go, or without having the permit first? Is that what we're trying to clarify, is like, you can't do any work on this site if it's intended for battery storage?
typically you would have to get approval.
Well, you can't really do work on any site.
Right.
We should. You can dig a hole in your backyard if you want to.
There's been a few people that have, you know,
Oh, yeah.
but
Easy to ask forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because all you do is clear trees, you can just say clear trees and
Well,
actually do a site.
Yeah, this is a timber harvesting site at the moment. It may become something else too.
I'm gonna put a garage right in the property line.
okay,
Yeah.
let's just defer to
Sorry.
Kurt on that one.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I have a huge comment here that, so section 400 is all the things we're saying that the developer needs to submit. And the Massachusetts bylaw includes additional things that they request that I thought we might want to consider for adding to ours. One is proof of notification, notification to the owners of record for all abutting properties and properties within 300 feet. Do we have any notification requirements for other large scale projects.
Ours require the town to do a notification, our current zoning code. We have to send out a butter notices for certain planning board actions. So
Okay, so that's not something that we would have them be required to do.
probably not, we're probably send them out.
And that's just as a heads up, like you're getting a site.
Like there's a development planned off Meadow Crossroad, the new subdivision. So town has to send all the abutting people in a certain distance notices so that they can come to the planning board meeting and comment if they want.
Okay, a site suitability report, and it's referring to some sort of Massachusetts state law. Probably none of us know if site suitability,
Probably in general, it considers like wetlands and stuff. So
yeah. And again, like the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, at the state level, these projects have to go through permitting and stuff with them too, so there's a whole slew of requirements that they're already doing for them.
Mhm.
But I think and we're asking for copies of all of that. I just didn't know if there was any other thing that we wanted in terms of asking for, like, why are you building here or want to build here? This isn't resonating with anyone, we can nix it, but just thought I would bring it up. Okay. And then a detailed description of the proposed project, including proposed site footprint, surrounding area with relevant maps, figures, drawings, anticipated permits. Any proposed, so I think ours already covers those, but any proposed community benefits plan or description of any proposed payment in lieu of taxes. Like the financial piece is definitely not in the model Maine language. So I don't know if we want to have anything about,
when we went to our town attorney with some of the Massachusetts stuff, he told us we couldn't do it.
we can't do it.
Yeah, or the payment in lieu of taxes, you're not allowed to negotiate in Maine. It was kind of interesting.
I mean, like, do we want to say something in here about like an anticipated financial mechanics between the property and the town of Topsham?
I don't think we want to put that in the licensing part.
Okay. And then,
Interestingly, Durham, because the same company that approached us approached Durham, and Durham took a contract zoning approach. So a lot of this is up to negotiation for each project. But our planning board didn't want any part of that, so we couldn't do that here, which is too bad, because that would be the perfect opportunity to do the financial negotiations in accordance with the zone negotiations.
okay. And then proof of liability insurance, is that something that we need at this stage?
At some point in it, yeah. I mean, I'll defer to Kirk on the best place to get it.
Okay, so we've done that comment. They also have a section on site control. I know we only have 2 minutes. This one is interesting though, because it's all about how they are actually going to like control the site. Like in the case of Bisson, it's going to be a lease instead of like buying the land. So would we want them to provide documentation around their right to the property and use of the property?
They actually require that even before you can file your planning board paperwork. They want to see evidence of right title and interest.
Okay, so that's already part of our
Yep.
standard stuff. Okay.
Is that in public records? Their lease agreement and everything?
Like you, parts of it maybe.
Certainly not the financials, but
A lot of times you have a memorandum of lease that is recorded in public record rather than the actual lease. Because if you have a lease for over a year, it's not binding against third parties unless it's recorded, or you can have a memorandum, just just a summary of what the parties are, what the term is or something in the area at least, without, if you don't want to expose the details to the whole world.
Okay, and then this is the last one and we'll wrap up for today. So they also required proof of utility notification. So they don't even want to review something unless there's evidence that the utility company that operates the electrical grid has been informed. And I'm assuming that this is to prevent wasting of time.
That's probably the interconnection.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like an interconnection. That might be another good one for Kurt.
Yeah.
That's fair. It'll be a disappointment if you made it to that point in the process. And then, yeah, they didn't let you connect.
Permit or study or something like that. Okay, so we made it through a couple, but there's obviously a lot more to go. I didn't know if we wanted to consider trying to schedule an ad hoc meeting. Are we allowed to do that? Where we try and meet
You can have more if you want. If you can have
more frequently? Because I feel like we're moving slowly, but I don't know.
I guess, is this work gonna be worth anything once we get engaged with Kurt? Because is he gonna have sort of like a model he wants us to work from? So we maybe.
They're gonna do whatever we ask them to do.
Okay.
So if we wanted them to, like, we could say, hey, we're starting with the Maine model ordinance, but can you guys review it and make sure it's like protecting Topsham enough and like incorporate,
Yeah.
like, we could ask them to help do all that work for us too.
Because I think our general impression of the main one is that there was a lot left out that should be in there.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to do of like kind of
Oh, no,
going
absolutely.
through.
You're doing a good job. I'm just wondering, maybe Kurt's got one. He says, we actually have kind of a model one we've developed that's easier for them to start with because, and they're familiar with it and they know how it fits with 855. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a route that he might feel more comfortable with or something.
Yeah, well, what I can do is I can email him and just tell him like where we're at, what we've gotten to, and maybe get a better sense of their timeline and
Yeah.
say like, look, we could really use a whole slew of students plus your expertise to help us advance this more quickly. And then we can go from there. I can report back.
And if he says, we'd rather review what you come up with, then we continue this process. And if he says, we have a frame we like to start with, then maybe we do it.
Okay, I will connect with him on that and then let you guys know what he says. I'm just trying to be cognizant that we're going pretty slow and Mission obviously isn't attending these, so.
Although they're wanting to watch them, so.
Yeah, they're probably watching this recording right now on YouTube. Okay. So no additional public comment. Our next meeting is June 16th. I think we can adjourn.